We're back in business. Okay, we lost a few seconds there while we were dealing with a battery that went dead. But basically, let me bring them back up to speed. What Rex was reading was Tatnai, who was a satrap, a governor, wrote a letter to Darius, and he was tattling. He comes in and he asks him, who told you that you could rebuild this? And all they told him was, who was rebuilding it, not who told them that they could rebuild it. And so they sent the letter, and that's, I think there's not too much that was missed when the batteries went down. So we're ready for 11 to 16, please.
And they returned this answer to us, saying, "We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we build a house that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built, and is finished. But because our fathers had provoked the God of heaven to wrath, he gave him into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this house and carried the people away to Babylon. But in the first year, Cyrus, the king of Babylon, King Cyrus, issued a decree to build the house of God, and also the vessels of gold and silver from the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took out of the temple in Jerusalem and brought them into the temple of Babylon. Those Cyrus the king who took out the temple of Babylon, and they were delivered to one whose name was Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor. And he said to him, "Take these vessels and go, deposit them in the temple in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be built in his place." Then the same Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundation of the house of God, which is in Jerusalem, and since that time, even until now, it has been in building, but is not yet finished.
Thank you, Gene. So the Sheshbazzar, if you remember from last time, they think that's Zerubbabel, the Jewish governor. And if I remember, it was Zerubbabel was his Jewish name when they referred to the Persians. That was his Persian name, or the name they'd given him. Remember, Daniel had a Babylonian name, and then of course his Jewish name was Daniel. So basically, we just went over a history of what had happened. But back there in verse 11, we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built. Well, who was that? Solomon. Okay. So he sent his letter to Darius, and by the way, we're going to do one chapter after this. You're going to get a real surprise here, the response they get. Would somebody take verse 17 and take us to the end?
Now therefore, if it seem good to the king, let there be search made in the king's treasure house, which is there in Babylon, whether it be so, that a decree was made of Cyrus the king to build this house of God at Jerusalem, and let the king send his pleasure to us concerning this matter.
And by the way, this Tatnai, who wrote the letter, there were 20 satraps who were over the empire, and Zerubbabel would have been subject to him. But remember, too, these guys started building. They didn't have anybody's permission to build. They got this directly from Haggai and Zechariah, who got it directly from God. So, chapter 6 here, you're going to like chapter 6, aren't they, Gene Ward?
Everything finally turns out okay.
It does. Verse 1 through 5 in chapter 6, please.
I'll continue.
Yes.
Then Darius the king made a decree, and search was made in the house of the rolls, where the treasures were laid up in Babylon. And there was found at Achmezah in the palace that is in the province of the Medes a roll, and therein was a record thus written. In the first year of Cyrus the king, the same Cyrus the king made a decree concerning the house of God at Jerusalem. Let the house be builded, the place where they offered sacrifice, and let the foundations thereof be strongly laid. The height thereof 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 80 cubits, with 3 rows of great stones and a row of new timber, and let the expenses be given out of the king's house. And also let the golden and silver vessels of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took forth out of the temple, which is at Jerusalem, and brought unto Babylon, be restored, and brought again unto the temple, which is at Jerusalem. Every one to his place, and place them in the house of God.
Thank you, Rex. And that was the decree. I think we remember reading that last time. Okay, now our next section here, Darius is going to make his ruling. And by the way, Artaxerxes, before, when he suspended work on it, he didn't go search anything. He didn't research anything. We don't know why. He just didn't. But Darius too could have said, "Well, I'm the king now. It doesn't matter what Cyrus said." But he didn't, as we're going to see. Would somebody read 6 through 10, please?
Now therefore Zechariah, governor of the province beyond the river, Shethar, Boznai, and your companions, the officials beyond the river, keep away from there. Let the work of this house of God alone. Let the governor of the Jews and the elders of the Jews build this house of God in its place. Moreover, I make a decree as to what you shall do for the elders and these Jews for the building of this house of God, that at once expense be given to these men from the king's goods, from the tax beyond the river, so that they may not be hindered. And that which they have need of, both young bulls and rams and lambs, for the burnt offerings of the God of heaven, wheat, salt, wine, and oil, according to the request of the priest at Jerusalem. Let it be given them day by day without fail, so that they may offer sacrifices of sweet savors to the God of heaven, and pray for the life of the king and of his son.
Thank you, Gene. Now, this is a pagan king. This king died a pagan. Cyrus was a pagan king. Is this incredible or what? They're not only saying rebuild it, they're saying, I'm going to pay for it. How about that? Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to see, when we get to the end of this chapter, a very pertinent verse I'm going to take you to. It's going to show you, who calls the shots in this universe. Somebody read 11 through 14, please.
Also I have made a decree that whosoever shall alter this word, let timber be pulled down from his house, and being set up, let him be hanged thereon, and let his house be made a dunghill for this. And the God that hath caused his name to dwell there, destroy all kings and people. Thou shalt put their hand to alter and to destroy this house of God, which is at Jerusalem. I, Darius, have made a decree. Let it be done with speed. Then Tasnai, governor on this side, the river, Boznai, and their companions, according to that which Darius the king had sent, so they did speedily. And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet, and Zechariah the son of Iddo, and they builded and finished it, according to the commandment of God of Israel, according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, kings of Persia.
Thank you, Rex. And now, and remember too, it says the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah. And remember what prophesying means. Prophesying means not just foretelling the future, it also means inspired speaking. Remember, it's forthtelling and it's foretelling, so they were prophesying, you know, but they were also inspiring them and, in other words, preaching to them. And so now, okay, back here in 11, when it talks about anybody that gets in the way here is going to get hanged. Hang does not mean hanging by the neck from a rope. It refers to I'm reading this from the commentary. Impaling the dead body of the condemned on a pole as a public display and a grim warning to others. Like somebody, was that Gene Fincher was saying at the beginning of the study, these people played for keeps. Yeah, they played rough. And then your house would be made a refuse heap, a dung heap. And so the thing is, too, the footnotes tell us, too, that we don't have any indication whatsoever after this that Tadnai or any of them gave the Jews any more trouble whatsoever. And we can see why, right? Okay, would somebody read 15 through 18, please?
And this house was finished on the 3rd day of the month, Adar, in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king. And the children of Israel, the priests and the Levites, and the rest of the children of the captivity kept the dedication of this house of God with joy. And they offered at that dedication of this house of God 100 bulls, 200 rams, and 400 lambs, and for a sin offering for all Israel 12 he-goats, according to the number of the tribes of Israel. And they set the priests in their sections and the Levites in their divisions for the service of God which is at Jerusalem, as it is written in the book of Moses.
Thank you, Gene. And according to one of the footnotes, this celebration they had, some people have suggested that Psalm 145 to 148 were used to celebrate the completion of the rebuilding of the temple. I was going to have us read those, but it's kind of lengthy, so you might want to make a note on that, and maybe that be your homework assignment. We don't know that for sure, but that's a possibility. Would somebody read verse 19 and take us to the end?
And the children of the captivity kept the Passover upon the 14th day of the first month. For the priests and the Levites were purified together. All of them were pure, and killed the Passover for all the children of the captivity, and for their brethren the priests, and for themselves. And the children of Israel, which were come again out of captivity, and all such as had separated themselves unto them from the filthiness of the heathen of the land, to seek the Lord God of Israel, did eat, and kept the feast of the unleavened bread 7 days with joy. For the Lord had made them joyful, and turned the heart of the king of Assyria unto them, to strengthen their hands in the work of the house of God, the God of Israel.
Thank you, Rex. Now, they mentioned the king of Syria. The king of Syria, or Syria, I'm sorry, Assyria. Assyria is gone. But the footnote says that the reason they may have called him that is because Darius took over the area that had belonged to the king of Assyria. So, in effect, you could call him the king of Assyria. It's I think we ran into that in Daniel before, that we had, I can't remember if that was a beast. It might have been back in Revelation as we were studying Daniel. And the beast had composites of all four of the empires that we studied. Well, see, each succeeding empire took over for the empire before it. You see what I'm saying here? So, king of Assyria, Assyria is gone, but this is the guy, this is the king that had the area that had been the Assyrian Empire. Now, the verse I want to close with that I think tells us very clearly, it's in Proverbs 21. This is real good reason why, you know, we read Proverbs every month along with our other reading assignment. It's going to show you really who it was that decided all this and who it was that made all this happen. Verse 1.
Oh, what? And it looks like the Lord God Almighty. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. To do justice and judgment is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice.
Thank you, Rex.
Would you like me to continue?
Might as well. It's a good chapter, isn't it?
A high look and a proud heart, and the plowing of the wicked is sin. The thoughts of the diligent tend only to plentiness, but of everyone that is hasty only to want. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a vanity tossed to and fro of them that seek death. The robbery of the wicked shall destroy them, because they refuse to do judgment. The way of a man is froward and strange, but as for the pure, his work is right. It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house. The soul of the wicked desireth evil, his neighbor findeth no favor in his eyes. When the scorner is punished, the simple is made wise, and when the wise is instructed, he receiveth knowledge. The righteous man wisely considereth the house of the wicked, but God overthroweth the wicked for their wickedness. Whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. A gift in secret pacifieth anger, and a reward in the bosom strong wrath. It is joy to the just to do judgment, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man, but he that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. The wicked shall be a ransom for the righteous, and the transgressor for the upright. It is better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and angry woman. There is a treasure to be desired, and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but the foolish man spendeth it up. He that followeth after righteousness and mercy findeth life, righteousness, and honor. A wise man scaleth the city of the mighty, and casteth down the strength of the confidence thereof. Whoso keepeth his mouth and his tongue keepeth his soul from troubles. Proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor. He that coveteth greedily all the day long, but the righteousness giveth and spareth not. How much more when he bringeth it with him a wicked mind? I'll finish up with a false witness shall perish, and the man that here speaketh constantly, the wicked man hardens his face, but as for the upright he directeth his way. There is no wisdom, no understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. The horse is prepared against the day of battle, but safety is of the Lord God Almighty.
Thank you, Rex, and I thought I heard you chuckle when you were reading about brawling and contentious women. Maybe I just wasn't...
I did, I heard him chuckle.
Yeah. Hey.
And then he kind of told me how I was talking all of this.
Really. Well, it was that first verse there that was important, that God turns the heart of the... I mean, it's all important, but that God... Welcome back, Gene.
Am I back?
You're back.
King's heart is of the Lord.
It is, and that's exactly what happened here. And one thing, too, we need to remember, as bad as things look in this country, that we're told repeatedly to pray for kings and pray for our leaders, and we're also told not to speak evil of dignitaries. So it's tough sometimes. But when that was said by Paul, Nero was the emperor, and he's one of the worst rulers that ever lived ever in any empire. So that's it. And Rex, would you give us a closing prayer, and then we can chat?
Father, thank you so much for the awesome privilege of hearing your word and understanding your word and seeing through eyes of understanding. I thank you for Tom tonight and for his courage and his strength and wisdom to teach your word and show us your word, and how we have the awesome privilege also to fellowship around your word, and let the freedom of your word ring true in our country and throughout the world on these days, Father. Let your word dwell richly in our hearts, that each of us have a peaceful night, and that we can go to bed knowing that we are confident and strong in you, Father.
Was that Rex?
Oh, that's it.
Wow,
Ten years down.
in the middle of a prayer.
Yeah. Oh. If they can hear me back on, then they can continue.
Yeah. Well, by the way,